Boundaries. They're not about pushing people away. They're about how to make relationships work without you getting railroaded in the process.
They're not about shutting people out. They're about protecting what's precious, you. And if you're feeling like you're disappearing in your relationships or resentment is starting to build, then perhaps boundaries is what you need.
If you think setting a boundary is risky, selfish, or mean, that's the indicator that you need them. Boundaries are at the heart of all relationships, romantic, personal, work colleagues, but we rarely get taught how to do them.
When you don't have boundaries, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to explode because you've been holding in so much, or you're going to implode because you're keeping it all in and nothing can get out. Either way, it's not good. You're not going to build trust nor connection.
I know that I've also had this issue with boundaries where I will cave to help someone else, and so I overgive, and then I feel resentful, but I don't say anything about it. I keep that quiet to myself, and then that builds, and then over time, that final straw, and then I explode, and then I feel guilty and feel bad, so then I go back to not saying anything, and this is the self-defeating cycle that many people do.
Setting boundaries isn't about creating drama. It's not about the big no or putting up big brick walls or big slamming of doors.
No, it's more like a fence. You can come in, but you got to knock first, and you don't climb over the fence, you come through the gate.
It's about being respectful to you and the other person.
When you don't set boundaries for other people, you start getting lost in your life. You start becoming a pretzel and backbending and molding yourself to suit their needs and their emotional problems and issues. And then you're left with the emotional fallout of your self-abandonment.
And when you don't receive boundaries from the people in your life, it's also problematic because then you don't know when you're crossing over a boundary that's important to them. You're kept in the dark as to why they just withdrew their attention. Why does it seem like they're offended? You're left wondering, is it me? Is it something I did?
It's a setup for you to fail in that relationship. So here's the bottom line. When you don't know what your boundaries are, other people are going to set them for you, and it's going to be for their benefit, not for yours.
Hi, we're Jeff and Ellen, life and relationship coaches. And for the past 2 decades, we've helped thousands of people build sustainable connections in all their relationships.
And boundaries is the biggest topic that we address in our coaching practice because it is at the heart of all relationships. That all relationships are asking is, where do I end and you begin? And what's yours to carry and what's mine to carry?
And we don't just help people have boundaries.
Yeah.
We teach people how to actually set the boundary so they can have long-lasting, sustainable, healthy connection.
This is the deep work that saves all relationships. An example of healthy boundaries for our marriage was years ago when I would have the habit of just coming into the kitchen and I would be helping, or I thought I was helping. By coming in. It's the air quotes that really make it for you to know. I would
When you're air quoting, you probably need a boundary.
So I'd come into the kitchen thinking, oh, I'm going to help, and now start doing stuff with the dinner, not seeing that Ellen was already doing something.
Dinner was already in play.
And Ellen wouldn't say anything because she would adopt the script, oh, Jeff's just being nice. And so silently she'd be like, "Argh."
Yeah, that I don't have a right to say anything because he's helping. How could I say anything other than thank you?
And I didn't know I was overstepping a boundary that was not addressed or spoken out. I needed some explicit boundaries. Until
one day
the argument happened where
I got so frustrated that I exploded, and something like, well, can you stop doing that?
You're coming in and taking over in the kitchen, and I've already started the meal. And of course I didn't know, and I felt really bad about it. And that began the conversation about the boundary. And what was the boundary?
I just wanted you to come in and check with me first. Do I need help? And then what would I like you to do?
Yeah. So instead of me coming in and taking over, I recognize that when I walk in the room, I'm walking into a room that's already in progress. And then asking, hey, how can I help?
It helps me to feel seen and respected, and that he sees that I'm engaged and I'm in a process already, and then I don't have to feel taken over by his desire to help.
So that shows respect for her, but it also shows respect for me because now I'm not set up to fail. I know the question that I can ask, and she tells me how I can help, that's a double win.
I grew up in a household where we had an open door policy where people could come and go as they pleased. It's just the way we did it. That's the way my parents felt comfortable. That's what I knew. Then come to my relationship with Jeff and our place. Well,
And I never had that policy. Our front door was always locked. People knocked before coming in. We didn't have people just barging into our household.
so that boundary wasn't set with my parents. And this is really good thing about boundaries, because sometimes boundaries need to be updated or added later in the relationship. It's not a sign that I don't love my parents, I don't respect my parents. It's a sign that we have our household and we would just like them to knock, or even better, send a text, call ahead.
Yeah, and so that boundary came with some awkwardness for us to establish, is this healthy? Then how do we implement with family? And so how we talked about it and saying this is about making sure that we're ready to receive you. The boundary in place, renegotiate the relationship for health.
If boundaries is something you've been struggling with, well, we go way deeper in our Relational Intelligence program. This is our flagship membership program, and this is the place where we teach you how to have healthy boundaries, how to regulate your emotions.
How to argue better. And the focus is all on relationships. Relationships romantically, with family, with children, with work colleagues, even the relationship with yourself. So if you're interested, check the link in the description below, and we'd love to see you on the inside.
So here are 3 things you can do to build healthy boundaries. Number 1, know where you end and they begin.
Like that fence, that's like the boundary between your backyard and someone else's backyard, where you end and the other person begins. Knowing that dividing line is really important to know when you've crossed it or they've crossed into yours.
And sometimes it's easier to think of boundaries in terms of energy. Instead of saying, I want to set a boundary with you, you can talk about how you feel inside, that there's an energy that is present in the exchange that doesn't feel right. It feels like I am being overpowered, or it feels like there's an energy that does not have my best interest at heart. And then you can name that. You can say, it doesn't feel like this is a fair energy exchange, or
equitable for both you and I.
Yeah. Or I just need to check in here. This last exchange, or this exchange between us, it just doesn't feel right. I'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, another way to think about it is if you're carrying a load, like, gosh, I feel like I'm carrying 90% here and it's only 10. Can we renegotiate it so it feels easier for both you and I, that we're both carrying this, that we can both acknowledge?
And so when you start to open up the conversation, then you can start to better understand who's carrying what, how did that come to be, and then you can start to renegotiate that distribution.
I have a client that has an issue with his brother that takes and takes and takes. And so my client kept feeling like his life was about being at the beck and call for his brother. So his brother's moving, and he wants my client to come and help with the move. And it's not just one day, it's repeated events to come help pack boxes and load things into the back of the truck to give it away. And so many things.
Free help is the best kind, after all.
But because he's family. And so my client came to me saying, what do I say? Where do I put the boundary that I can say it in a way that's healthy, that preserves the relationships, doesn't piss off my brother? But how do I do it in a way that just makes me feel like, I can say this nice and clean and calmly? And I said, here's what you say. I will show up on Saturday. I'll be there at 10. And you've got me for 2 hours. And I'll do whatever you want for 2 hours. And then at 2 hours at noon, I'm leaving. It was nice and clear and calm. So having that boundary, we think it's going to be more difficult than it actually is. Just clear and calmly, this is the limit. This is the end. This is the boundary line that we don't go any further.
And I like that example because it's not about just saying, no, I'm not helping, or yes, I am. It's actually moving away from that black and white yes, no, and that there's room to set those boundaries to say, I am willing to help you. Here is where I begin, but also here is where I end. I can only help you for those 2 hours, and then that's it for today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you can use metrics and time and things like that to also adjust and scale the boundary. Number 2, stop trying to take responsibility for other people's emotions. It's really easy when someone's upset, it's in their 911 state, to want to offload that onto you. Oh my God, my life is falling apart. You have to help. And then we can instantly feel like, oh my God, I have no choice here. I got to help. And now their emergency becomes my emergency.
That's usually, we give this coaching a lot to people to say, just because that's a 911 on your part does not make it an automatic 911 on my part here. That your emotional world and chaos doesn't now become on my shoulders and my responsibility to take over, and so that I have to not just support you, but it's my job. Now I have to clean up your spill. Yeah.
And when someone else is in a bad state, naturally, we're going to get a little triggered too. We're going to say, oh my God, we're going to get hit with the energy, the emotion, especially if it's someone we love and care about. So we're going to get worked up. It's about pausing before you agree to anything and recognizing, wait a minute, let me take stock here. What is happening? What is their situation? And key, their situation. And what is it that I can really bring here? What would be appropriate? Because if I start fixing their life, if I start doing the things that they can't do for themselves, then am I really helping, or am I now enabling?
Yep, enabling.
It's really important to be able to understand where that line is, and then give them back the responsibility.
It's important that you can be there to support. Like, I'll walk with you. I'll hold your hand. I'll be there to talk.
I'll cheer
and
you on.
Cheer you on, and even give you empathy.
I can even teach you skills so that you can do this for yourself.
But I'm not going to carry you. That's the important thing, because if I carry you, I'm promoting learned helplessness.
You never build the muscles, and I get tired and weak.
So when someone has an emotional upheaval, you get closer with them. You give them more empathy. You reassure them. You give them sort of some centered and groundedness so you can address their emotion, but you don't step over the fence and go, now I'm going to clean up all your mess. If they're old enough to create the mess, then they're old enough to clean up the mess. With your loving support on the sideline saying, I'm here with you. Good job. We could talk about it. Yep, I can talk that through, but I'm not coming over and now giving up my life and all the responsibilities I have to clean up something that you created.
Parents do this all the time with children when they're learning to tie their shoes.
Yeah.
Because children will always say, you tie it, you tie it, you tie it.
You dress me.
You do this for me. But every parent knows, unless they want to be tying their kids' shoes until they're a teenager, they have to put that back onto their child. And not only so that they don't have this on their to-do list, but also because that's how your children build competence and then build their confidence. And so we want to support, we want to encourage, we want to let them know that they can do hard things. And this is a form of setting a boundary.
And when you set the boundary, any parent knows that when you put that boundary, the child isn't going to go, yay, I love the boundary.
There's going to be
some challenge and feel discomfort. But once you negotiate the emotion about that and say, I know this is really hard for you. I know this is challenging. I'm giving you you're going to tie your shoe on your own, and you don't leave the room. You say, good job. Go slow. It's fine. And they get through that. You're promoting their competence and then their confidence. So do not rescue someone else's emotional vulnerability.
Number 3, boundaries will bother people, and that's okay. When you start to set boundaries, especially amongst the people who you didn't set the boundaries with before, there's a really good chance they're going to be irked by it. They're not going to like that you're suddenly showing up and now limiting the reign and the jurisdiction that they had over you. They're not going to get their way as much.
The people that are most times going to be really upset are the people where there wasn't a boundary and now you're putting a boundary in place. And then you're probably going to get the things like, you're being so mean.
You've changed.
You're
so selfish.
All those things, which is really not the indication of the boundary. It's that the responsibility that they now have is uncomfortable in their body system, because you're saying it's now on you also to uphold this boundary.
And they're going to start to feel, you're making me uncomfortable with your boundary. So can you please take it down? Ew, your boundary is bugging me.
And so this is where health can be astray, that we put health aside to take care of someone's uncomfortableness. And that won't be healthy for either people.
Because if somebody ends the relationship because of a healthy boundary that you set up, then that is your validation that that relationship wasn't healthy to begin with.
Yeah, the boundary may reveal the imbalance or the toxic relationship that you're in. So boundaries are not about control. It's not about controlling someone else. It's providing clarity of the boundary where I and you can have this relationship go on. It's showing mutual respect.
Because the boundary simply says, I matter too.
Yeah, it says that you're important and I'm important, and for this relationship to continue, here are the new rules for us to carry this forward.
Yeah, I'm allowed to take up space, my space in this relationship, and I'm going to let you know where that space is. And if you try to step into my space uninvited or to encroach or shrink my space, I'm going to let you know that's not okay.
If you've enjoyed this video, then support our channel by subscribing or share this video to someone that could use it.
Because boundaries are the beginning of real connection, not the end. Thank you for giving us your attention.